Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. I'm Neha Bharadwaj Alter and this is Game On. India are in the final of World Cup 2023, a team that has won 10 games to stamp their authority over this tournament at home. However, the semi-final wasn't all smooth sailing. Unlike the games in the league stage, New Zealand found a way to up the tempo in the chase. At one point, with the way Daryl Mitchell and Kane Williamson were batting, one felt India had reasons to worry. But Mohammed Shami, how brilliant was he? He came back in a second spell to vaporize any such fears, picking up a 7-4 to etch his name among the best in ODI cricket. Chetan Nirula and Jamie Alter, unlike us who were probably watching it on television, they were there watching it all unfold in front of them. The action was superb yeah, they got to see Virat Kohli's 50th, they got to see Mohammed Shami's 7-4, they got to see India beat their bogey team, New Zealand, to enter the semi-finals. Chetan, how special was that?
It was a special moment, and it started with the day itself when a lot of people were streaming into the Wankhede with a lot of expectations, a lot of anticipation. David Beckham was there. My eyes were like David Beckham. So yeah, it was a special occasion with the who's who of cricket, football, and movies at the ground, which told you that this is not just a normal game. It was not a normal occasion, and then. Virat Kohli, what can I say about him? I mean, he doesn't write his own scripts. He's a mere mortal. He's a human being just like the rest of us. But there are human beings who work tirelessly and they try to write their own scripts. And then there are human beings, for whom scripts are written from up there. So he's one of those special people. Who doesn't write his own scripts, who gets those scripts written by a superior force. And to mark this occasion with his 50th ODI 100, I've seen a few of them. And let me tell you, this was no way less special than any of them. He was doing a job for his team. He was playing a role for his team, and he played it to perfection. And the joy on his face just showed us how important that 100 was to him. And then he allowed the others to play around him, get India to that par plus total, which was really important because, like you mentioned, New Zealand did give a scare to India. And then Mohammed Shami firing in those wickets. A special day, a special game, a special venue, Wankhede, Only Wankhede can produce games like this. It's a special cricket venue. All in all, a remarkable day for Indian cricket. Perhaps a stepping stone to another remarkable day on Sunday, hopefully.
Okay, first, before I just start the questions with Jamie, a slow clap for Jamie Alter. He has gone straight from the Wankhede to the Eden Gardens. Look at that commitment. For a second, I thought you were standing somewhere in the mountains, greenery behind you. But no, this is Jamie Alter at the Eden Gardens. Jamie, first about, what it was like watching all these records being broken. But also the fact that it turned out to be such a thriller that, it made up for what a semi-final should be, in the way Daryl Mitchell and Kane Williamson were batting at one point. And then, the way Mohammed Shami came and got Kane Williamson's wicket. What was that like watching from the stadium?
Various emotions, I think, went through not just the Wankhede, went through the press box as well. I think Chetan can vouch for that as well. Yesterday, with each passing boundary that, first of all, Kane Williamson and Daryl Mitchell hit, and then Daryl Mitchell and Glenn Phillips. You start to wonder, is there enough on the board? Because we know what what Glenn Phillips can do down the line. Daryl Mitchell is fantastic, but you needed that. I'm going to use the word Maxwell factor. Of course, Glenn Phillips could not have done what Maxwell did. But at the same ground, knowing his range, his big hitting, you sense, is this going somewhere where not many of us thought it would? In the end, the margin of defeat was so massive that it just underlined what India have been doing. But it's good that they were pushed in the field, by the Kiwis. And just going back to the overall theme of this World Cup, I think had they been rolled over for 200, 220, it would not have been fun to watch. Yes, easier on journalists who have copies to file and videos to do, and for the fans. But I like that India got their first bad game in terms of the bowling just before the final, because you couldn't afford this in the final. You could afford it here because all said and done, you had 397 on the board. But good to see, that the bowlers were, barring the brilliant Mohammed Shami, the bowlers were nowhere near optimum level, because many people have been saying, when is that off day going to come? And I think, to my mind, it came yesterday. India were not scared, but yeah, they were definitely pushed. Like I said, people were wondering, is 397 enough? But on the day, it was more than enough, because India are just that good a team.
Okay, so yes, let's look back at the action. It was a contest worthy of a semi-final of the World Cup. There were many records broken. There was a thrilling chase. There were exceptional batting and bowling performances. But in the end, the result was the same that we've seen every match that India have played in World Cup 2023. They are now in the finals after beating New Zealand by 70 runs. Choosing to bat first, India made use of the conditions to get off to a quick start, with local boy Rohit Sharma once again, the selfless Rohit Sharma, scoring 47 of 29 balls. But the day belonged to Virat Kohli with a bat, who scaled the ultimate Mount Everest of ODIs, where no one has gone before. He scored his 50th ODI century, overtaking his idol Sachin Tendulkar, who cheered him on from the stands at the Wankhede Stadium. It couldn't have been scripted better. Shami and Iyer too joined an elite club, scoring back-to-back centuries in a World Cup, becoming the third Indian to do so. India ended with a massive 397 for 4. New Zealand were the first team in this World Cup that managed the twilight conditions, chasing much better than all others. Despite losing 2 wickets in the power play, Daryl Mitchell and Kane Williamson made India panic during their 181-run partnership of 149 balls. What made matters worse for the hosts was Mohammed Shami dropping Kane Williamson at mid-on in Bumrah's second spell. Rohit Sharma turned to Bumrah in the 29th over to provide them a breakthrough, with both Williamson and Mitchell carefully constructing the chase. Shami then ended up dropping a sitter, and he knew they could be in trouble. Daryl Mitchell got to a brilliant century, making it his 5th in 2023. But that's when Shami was given the ball. He came in the 33rd over and he changed the whole game. Shami struck twice, first sending back Kane Williamson on 69 and Tom Latham for a duck in the same over. India knew they were back. They ramped up the pressure, making sure the runs were hard to come by, pushing the net run rate up. The Kiwis were dismissed for 320 runs, but Shami had become the star of the night, having taken 7 wickets for 57 runs to become the first Indian to pick 7 wickets in an ODI. And there were many other records that he broke on his way to those 7 wickets. We're going to discuss all of that. But it was a special moment. It was a special moment because there was this bit of fear. It was New Zealand at the Wankhede. Can India do it? Law of averages. Will it come back to bite them? Well, none of that happened. India did have an off day in terms of their bowling, especially with Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Siraj not being able to make that kind of impact that we've seen from them. But in the end, India were the winners. Okay, so should we start then with Virat Kohli's 100 and what that was like? 50th century in ODIs, gentlemen, in front of Sachin Tendulkar. And when you look at the number of innings that he has taken, you realize how absolutely special he's been in white ball cricket and how he can be considered the greatest of all time. Jamie?
He can be considered the greatest of all time, and many will be considering him the greatest all time. And that's a reflection of course, whatever Virat Kohli has achieved. It's reflective of the number of ODIs that he plays, the number of ODI opportunities he's got. It's reflective of his social media game. It's reflective of other factors. But again, what is greatest? Is greatest just numbers? Is greatest achievements on the field? Is greatest? I don't know. It's a term which doesn't always sit so easily on people. In terms of records, in terms of stats, on a day when you break a few records, including going past Sachin Tendulkar's 49th 100, when you go past his record of 673 runs in a World Cup edition, which has stood the test of 20 years, there are many reasons to believe that he's the greatest. But again, when you come to these comparisons, you often see conditions, opposition. So there's a school of, more than a school, there's a few academies and a few institutions of fans which will say, no, that tag should stay to Sachin Tendulkar because of what what he meant to a nation coming out of the 1980s, economically, financially, and the level of bowlers he played. So I'm not going to put Virat Kohli. I was just waiting to wrap it up by saying I'm not going to say he's the greatest, but definitely there are lakhs and crores of Indian fans who will say he is the greatest.
No,
Yes.
absolutely. And because I think with him becoming the highest run scorer in a tournament which India could potentially win, they are one win away from winning the World Cup, with Virat Kohli having played the most significant role in the number of runs, sheer number of runs that he scored. That's another reason to put him in at the top of that list, Chetan.
Well, first of all, I don't agree that he's the greatest.
Okay.
So yeah, and I don't like comparisons, to be honest. Different eras. Who knows how Sachin would have played if there were two new balls and there were four fielders inside the circle from over number 11 to over number 40.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a time that there were four fielders inside the circle. Five fielders inside the circle from overs 11 to 50, and it was changed. I think post 2019 World Cup, because run scoring was becoming too easy. And I'm not making this up. This was actually from the MCC, that run scoring apparently was becoming too easy. So they needed a fifth fielder for the last 10 overs, and the rules were changed again. So look, two new balls, no reverse swing. Again, I'm not going to judge him. Somebody who scored 50, hundreds, 13,000 runs, the way he's done it, in the number of innings that he's done, he's obviously one of the greatest batsmen of all time. In fact, he is the greatest ODI batsman of his era, post Sachin. There's no doubt about it. But, the sheer volume of runs Sachin scored, the game was different back then. The kind of bowlers that he faced, I don't think anybody comes close to Sachin to be able to do that. It's not about the number of innings. I mean, Sachin never really got too open until, the 100, almost 80 or 90 innings were gone, really. So from that aspect, the game at that particular time was really, really different. So again, I'm not somebody who likes to compare, but just in terms of the kind of bowlers that Sachin faced, and the kind of scores that were good enough in ODI cricket at that point in time, from that perspective alone, I would say Sachin is still, I would personally still rank Sachin higher. But again, it doesn't take, like I said, comparisons don't really come into the picture. They can both be great. That's the bottom line, and they are both great. So there's no taking away from that fact. Yes, Virat Kohli's contributions have been immense in this World Cup. I think he has been the cornerstone of India's victory. But again, I would not like to say that he's been the only reason why India's batting has performed the way it has. To my mind, Rohit Sharma has been equally impressive. If it can be argued that Rohit Sharma has actually been more instrumental in the way India have changed the way they bat. Yes, Virat Kohli is playing the anchor role, but if you go back to the T20 World Cup last year and you go back to the Bangladesh series last year, which India lost, ODI series, there was this chatter, there was this conversation that the way India's top order plays needs to change.
Yeah.
And that has changed. And who has brought that change? That has been down to Rohit Sharma. Even yesterday, he was batting at 200 strike rate. So I'm not going to say it's just Rohit Sharma. I'm not going to say it's just Virat Kohli. It's been a collective effort. It's been 6 batsmen who know their roles, and they're performing those roles to perfection. And that has been the secret to India's success.
I'm glad you cued me to that about Rohit Sharma, because this is what Nasir Hussain has to say about Rohit Sharma, and he's all praise for the captain. He says the headlines tomorrow will be about Virat Kohli and Shreyas Iyer and Mohammed Shami. But the genuine hero of this Indian team is Rohit Sharma. He has changed the culture of the team. When England defeated them by 10 wickets in the semi-finals of the ICC T20 World Cup 2023, he told Dinesh Karthik that they would have to change their batting template. India were timid and posted a below par total. Rohit decided to lead with an example after that match, and he's actually doing it with his aggressive batting. And absolutely, which is exactly what he said, because I remember as soon as he took over captaincy, that was the one thing he said. And then with India's performance in that T20 World Cup, even then, after that, he said that, boss, we've got to change our approach. And that was a huge problem for them, because I think India other than Afghanistan, would have been the other one team that had really low run rate in the power plays in that World Cup, if I remember correctly. But Jamie, we're going to come to Rohit Sharma in just a bit. Sticking with Virat Kohli, this is Virat Kohli's partner, wife. She has a note, a heartwarming note for Virat Kohli, and she says, God is the best script writer. Utterly grateful to him for blessing me with your love and to watch you grow from strength to strength and achieve all that you have and will. Being honest to yourself and to the sport always, you are truly God's child. And there is no denying that. I think this bit, he's truly God's child, Jamie. Because how can anyone script something like this better? To do it at the Wankhede, where you had him over your shoulders, your idol, you had him over your shoulders, and you said, you know, he's carried the burden of this nation for so many years, it's only fair we do it. And then at the Wankhede, at that same location, you go out there and you overtake his record. That's incredible. And to do it in a semi-final on such a massive stage, in such a massive moment.
Yeah, so that last part is the one that I want to focus on. Virat Kohli in knockouts before this match, in 3 knockout matches in one day, he had a total of 5 runs, Meha. So your greatness and all can be put on the back burner until you do something in a knockout. Rohit Sharma, Shikhar Dhawan, they have far better one-day knockout records than Virat Kohli has. Forget T20s. He had a tremendous 2016 T20 World Cup, you know. But in one-day tournament knockouts, Virat Kohli in 3 matches has scored 3, 1 and 1. So that, personally speaking for me, was a massive asterisk over whether he could do it in a crunch situation. The fact that he did it, like you said, against New Zealand, India's bogey team for 2 decades now, the fact that he did it in a semi-final, I don't think there was any additional pressure, because when you come into a semi-final with almost 600 runs, when you know that sea of blue is going to be there primarily to watch you, that just gets you going, you know. And we're talking about the best batsman, the greatest batsman of this era, you know. But to choose the occasion, like I said, right here, 35th birthday, Eden Gardens, gets to 49. You know, 4900s was unthinkable before Sachin got there. And since Sachin got there years ago, it still was unthinkable. But if one man ever came close to doing it, we all know who that man was going to be. And you, like Chetan said, you cannot take that away from him. Is he touched by Sachin's God, whoever put his hand on Sachin? No. Sachin was actually a once in a generation, once in a century level player. Virat Kohli is not blessed with that level of talent, but that means he has to work harder. And to see him, you know, slog it out, you know, from the age of 14 when he had that mishap in his life to change perception. Sachin was so blooming good, he didn't have to change perceptions. Virat Kohli at every corner of his career, be it domestic, under 15, he's had to change perceptions. Ye hai, wo hai, can't play this short ball. By the time he was 21, he had sorted out his short ball problems at the international level. Then we come to his fitness. I think Chetan said it a few months ago that perhaps Virat Kohli's greatest legacy will be fitness and how he made this Indian team very fit. So let's also mention that, you know, let's keep the great term aside. But what he's done, and this sense to mark occasions, the Indian fans, yesterday, Chetan was there. Those fans that are there, they wait for days like this. The fans who were here last week or 10 days ago when he got that 49th, they wait for these occasions. They don't look at Rohit Sharma, Shikhar Dhawan, Shreyas Iyer, MS Dhoni in the same way, because Virat Kohli has set himself up for these great occasions. But the fact was, like I said, 3 knockout matches, only 5 runs. For me personally, was it a great 100? No, it was a decent 100, let's face it. But it came at a time and against a team which has, you know, troubled you for a long, long time. So from that aspect, hats off to him for choosing that occasion to get to that 50th. I would have much rather have seen that than that 50th come in one of those inconsequential league matches.
Okay, so here, take a look at this. These are fans celebrating India's victory outside the Wankhede Stadium. And this is what happens when Virat Kohli scores 100. This is what happens when India wins. And how often, at least in this tournament, have we seen these visuals come out of different venues, be it outside the Eden Gardens, you know, be it outside Ekana Stadium in Lucknow, to now outside the Wankhede. But you've got to also see this as being a special occasion. It's one thing winning in the league stages, to be able to win a semi-final, to be able to get to a historic final. That is huge for this Indian team. We've been talking about how the stars have been aligning for the team. So it's not just their performance on the field, but everything has come perfectly in unison for this team to make it to the finals. Let's also listen to some of the fans after India's win.
फाइनल जीत जाएगा इंडिया, अब फाइनल जीतेगा। बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत एंजॉय किया हमने। मोहम्मद शमी ने सबसे बढ़िया मैन ऑफ द मैच मोहम्मद शमी।
बॉलिंग बहुत बढ़िया, मोहम्मद शमी दिल लूट लिया यार, दिल लूट लिया, बहुत बढ़िया, मजा आ गया यार। लव यू इंडिया। सुरेश अय्यर, विराट कोहली, एवरी मेंबर ऑफ टीम, ब्रिलियंट, मोर देन ब्रिलियंट।
मैच को अगर हम लेके चलें तो जैसे पहले ही पता था कि जीत तो पक्की है, पर ये कितने रनों से जीतेंगे, किस तरीके से जीतेंगे, बस वो देखना बाकी था। और रोमांच की बात करें तो हिलने का दिल ही नहीं कर रहा था, इतना मज़ेदार था। हम तो चाय पानी ये वो सब भूल चुके थे, जबकि हमने पूरा प्लान किया था भी यार स्नैक्स मंगाएंगे, ये खाएंगे, वो खाएंगे, करेंगे, पर वहाँ तक पहुँचने का मौका ही नहीं मिला। मैच ने सब कुछ ही भुला दिया।
Congrats Virat for making the century. We are proud of you and we are expecting bigger runs and win in the finals from India also. All the best.
बहुत खुशी है। वर्ल्ड कप में भी जीतेंगे हम, जहाँ तक लग रहा है। स्ट्राइक रेट अच्छा रहेगा फर्स्ट, और होप सो कि बहुत अच्छा मैच जाए।
पूरी टीम को बहुत मुबारकबाद देना चाहता हूँ, पूरा देशवासियों को मुबारकबाद देना चाहता हूँ, और बहुत अच्छा हुआ। और हम इंडिया को फाइनल वर्ल्ड कप जीत के लाने वाले इस बार, फिर से हम जीतने वाले हैं इंशाल्लाह।
All right, this is what this Indian team does to more than 1.5 billion people in this country and around the world, Indians around the world. But Chetan, Mohammed Shami, there was one fan who spoke about Mohammed Shami, man of the match, and the excitement that you saw in him. It's one thing that on a day when Virat Kohli scores his 50th ODI 100 in front of Sachin Tendulkar, Mohammed Shami can outshine that, and he did exactly that. How special would that be? And when I say stars are aligning or have aligned for this team, this is what I mean. That Hardik Pandya gets injured, we are all worried and we're panicky that now what's going to happen. In comes Mohammed Shami, and India haven't looked back since then. He is their top wicket taker, and he didn't even start playing from the first game.
So I'll tell you something. Last night I was coming back from the stadium at around 12:30, and I was staying near the airport in Mumbai, and it was almost an hour-long drive. And my cab driver was talking about the game, and we were talking about, he was genuinely curious to understand, who was the one hero of the match. And I spoke about Rohit, I spoke about Virat, and I spoke about Shreyas. And then I spoke about Kane Williamson, and he mentioned, Kane Williamson, Daryl Mitchell. His exact words were, "Dara to diya tha." And then he was waiting for me to come to Mohammed Shami. On a day when 700 plus runs were scored on an apparently slow pitch, Mohammed Shami took 7 wickets. And I'll just tell you what the cab driver said, wahi hai. And the thing is, so many hundreds, so many runs scored on a pitch, and here comes a bowler who's taken 7 wickets. 7 wickets in the game, and that's something marvelous. And you're absolutely right. We're talking about writing scripts. We're talking about something phenomenal happening with the Indian team. We're talking about Hardik Pandya. One man's misery can be another man's good fortune, and that's been the case with Mohammed Shami. And outside Bangalore, I'll also say this. Outside Bangalore, the India-Netherlands game, I saw something very, very unique. There was a group of fans which had posters in support of Mohammed Shami because he's been fighting this battle with his estranged wife. And obviously, I'm not going to go into that story, but we know what's happened there. And these guys were actually supporting Mohammed Shami, that, maybe he's he's not been, properly listened to. There's something deeper there. I don't want to get into it, but what I'm trying to say is that people are just now opening up to Mohammed Shami in a way that they have probably not done that before, because again, cricket or Indian cricket has been mostly about batting stars.
Yeah.
A Virat Kohli, a Sachin Tendulkar, a Sunil Gavaskar, Rahul Dravid, Rohit Sharma. There's no Mohammed Shami fan club or Shamians, if we can call them, on Twitter or X. Like there are Viratians or Rohitians. Even Sanju Samson has a bloody fan club. So my point is, the Indian cricket fan base is opening up to Mohammed Shami in a completely different way. I've never seen this happen in the 12 years that I've covered cricket actively. So this is absolutely phenomenal, and it's even before you get into the way he's been bowling. He's been just so effective. And you learn new things. And I'll also like to point out, he said one thing yesterday in post-match, that the grass was just cut absolutely right. Because if it had been thicker, then there would have been more dew, and then New Zealand would have run away with the game. So even the length of the grass impacts dew, and you learn these things watching these guys play, watching these guys bowl, and the way the match progresses. So Shami has been absolutely phenomenal, and everything that is happening around him has been absolutely phenomenal as well. And it's going to be one hell of a story in the years to come.
Okay, this is what Mohammed Shami had to say about the chance that he was given in this World Cup. He says, I was waiting for my chances. I didn't play a lot of white ball cricket. My return started against New Zealand in Dharamshala. Last 2 World Cups, we lost. Who knows when or if we'll get a chance. So we wanted to do everything for this one. One chance we didn't want to let go. Owen Morgan, former England captain, he is all praise for Mohammed Shami. He says, I've faced him over the years, and you would have to say his level of accuracy he continues to produce brings a level of predictability, but also when you're channeling your focus in on doing one single thing, it allows very little margin for error. And then he goes on to say he charges in, attacks the stumps from over and around the wicket, but the level of control he's shown throughout his tournament to move the ball off the seam and in the air has been great to admire. He also goes on to say 7 for 57 in a one-day international is unheard of, particularly in a World Cup knockout game where there is a huge amount of pressure on him. He comes on, goes bang bang, and all of a sudden has them back in the game and does it with such ease. And then to have someone like that at your disposal for Rohit Sharma adds more value to the strength of India. And it is exactly that, Jamie. The fact that he changed the complexion of the game. Daryl Mitchell, I know it's so sad. There have been, so many matches where Daryl Mitchell's played a fantastic knock and they've been on the losing side. But despite that, the way Shami turned the game around and to be able to do it consistently.
Absolutely. It seems kind of apt that I'm discussing Mohammed Shami. Somewhere there, about 800 meters in front of me is where he honed a lot of his skill after coming here from Azamgarh. And then right behind me is Eden Gardens, where he made his debut and took 8 wickets, So again, I mean, just like Chetan said, people have started to talk about Mohammed Shami a lot. The cab driver I took to the airport, he didn't even let me start. He's like, "Wo sab theek hai, match to Shami bhai ne jitaya." So that just says, the kind of realization now that the common man has for Mohammed Shami. In fact, yesterday when I was coming back from doing our afternoon show, it's a long walk from the gate to the press box. I mean, India were just starting to bat. One fan in blue with a Virat jersey was running through the place where you get the snacks going, Shami, Shami. And I said, is this guy okay? Because India were not bowling. But it just goes to say what Chetan was talking about. There is now an acceptance about what Mohammed Shami does. I think why it's not come before is because this is happening in a World Cup. And World Cup performances do get measured a lot more. It's not like Mohammed Shami has not taken 5 wickets all before. But when you're doing it in a World Cup, and I think the Janta, the Aam Aadmi now realizes that this team kept this guy on the bench for 4 matches and now he's got, 22 wickets. Is it that perhaps he's got a bit more fire in the belly having been benched? Would he have been so damn brilliant from game one? I don't know. I think the fact that, look, you did this to me in 2019 when I was your leading wicket taker. I get where you're coming from, but you're still leaving me on the bench. I think he had something to prove because at this age, heading towards the twilight stage of your career, where do you find the sheer will to do this? Yes, you have skill. His skill is never in doubt. That wrist position is never in doubt. But I think something is flicked on in Shami. This is a World Cup. This is definitely my last World Cup. Let's make this memorable. And it's just remarkable to see what he's done when you factor in that had Hardik Pandya not got injured, Shami would have played 2 matches.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, now let's take a look at what's happening at the Eden Gardens today because, come on, today is the second semi-final at Kolkata between South Africa and Australia, 2 teams that have enough World Cup baggage to deal with, and today can in fact provide closure to especially South Africa if they beat Australia in this semi-final. Australia definitely head and foot above South Africa in big match situations, and if it boils down to nerves, Pat Cummins' side would perhaps have the edge. The Australia skipper admitted as much on Wednesday, saying it's a new day, a new game, and we start from scratch. But we know that Australia always have the advantage over South Africa in knockout games. His South African counterpart, Temba Bavuma too, is aware of that, reminding that only Quinton de Kock and David Miller have been in that stage before. Australia would have been worried about Glenn Maxwell's hamstring injury, but reports are that scans have cleared him to play. However, Temba Bavuma, the South African captain, his form and fitness have been an issue in this tournament. The 33-year-old has scored 145 runs in 7 innings, and he did injure his hamstring in the last game, so there is still doubt over whether he will play today. Weather could also play spoil sport in today's game with cyclonic storm forecast for Thursday and Friday. So, if rain stops play today, then the reserve day will be activated on Friday. In case of a washout, South Africa will advance to the final. So, that is what will happen in case rain plays spoil sport. Jamie Alter's right there. Looks the weather is fine, but the covers are on, Jamie, that I could see on Twitter and social media as well as on the TV with the host broadcaster. But what has the weather been like, and what are the local journalists telling you?
There was early morning rain around 4 or 5. It has looked, the strange part is, and I've asked everyone from security guards at the airport to the cab driver to the receptionist at the hotel to people here to media people who are locals here. The weather has looked exactly the same since I first set eyes on it at around 5:40 in the morning. It has been gray. It's been overcast. It's looked like it's going to in any second. Not a drop has fallen, And I said, is this normal? And of course, the answer was, yahan dada, yahan to sab chalta hai. But the main concern is tomorrow. Tomorrow is the day which has a much worse forecast. It seems, given that all that I've heard and people are saying it will rain at some point. But I find it very weird that it stayed ominous. It stayed, and this is for Chetan, it stayed Game of Thrones level sleet gray without a drop. So if this were Delhi or Bombay, I say, bas barish aane wali hai. People are saying we really cannot say whether it's going to rain or not. If we assume it is going to rain, I think this is going to be a DLS hit match. But I don't think if the match goes into tomorrow, based on purely what the locals are saying, there's much hope for tomorrow. So whoever wins the toss, and I think we'll get that update, you probably have it by now, is going to keep that rain on
I've got the update.
The good news is, despite being very, very dark, it has not rained.
Okay, so South Africa won the toss and opted to bat first, which is interesting again, given that if the rain is going to play a role, why would you not want to have the luxury of knowing what the target is going to be and to chase that target? But we know that this is a place where you're going to get, it's going to be a slow wicket. So what can one expect from this? Both my wonderful guests are already smiling. It's that cynical wry smile saying, phir se inhone, they've decided to bowl, to bat. So does this mean that, Australia have the advantage, guys? Or do you think that South Africa batting first? I mean, knockout games, they have done well batting first. This is obviously an advantage to South Africa. Chetan?
Neha, you know the guy called WG Grace? What did he say? Bat first, bat first, bat first.
Yeah.
Look, it's a knockout. It's a knockout game. It's semi-final. Rain may be around, may not be around. It's typical Kolkata weather from what I'm reading, and I've spoken to a couple of locals as well. I am in Delhi, but I've spoken to a couple of locals because I'm covering the game off tube. What I've been told is that we will get 40 overs in today. And when I say 40 overs, it means Australia and South Africa both play 20 overs. The game will go to tomorrow, that is the reserve day, only if a 20-over game cannot be completed today. And something tells me that we will have at least a 20-over game today. So, look, South Africa will want to bat first because that's their strength. You don't want to give away your strength just because there's some rain around, that too in a knockout game. Yes, there might be advantage in terms of DLS, but then again, what if the rain doesn't come? So these are questions that perhaps the South African dressing room would like to answer and, figure out what they are most comfortable doing. And, what they have done best through this tournament is bat first. So, yeah, I think for once I will say, look up, look down, and then decide to bat first. And I think that's the right way to go today.
Okay, so in the pitch report, Pommy Mbangwa saying that captain winning the toss should bat first despite the overcast conditions. Matthew Hayden saying spin will win, and the spinners have had a good time bowling here. So it's going to be interesting between Adam Zampa and the South African spinners in Keshav Maharaj, Tabraiz Shamshi. Who will have the advantage? Pat Cummins at the toss has said, look, okay, Temba Bavuma, guys, first of all, let's inform our viewers, Temba Bavuma is fit. He was there at the toss. He says, we will bat first, not something I really dreamt of. We've come against a team like Australia in the semi-finals, means a lot to me. And they've got one change, which is what I was expecting, which is Tabraiz Shamshi is in for Lungi Ngidi. Clearly, given the conditions there, this being a slow spinner-friendly wicket. Pat Cummins says that we would have batted first as well. They play pretty similar style. Unfortunately, they've won a last few. We are due. We've been in these positions before. We have a lot of experience. We're not up to our best in those couple of games. The guys have been positive in the last 7 games. 2 changes for them. Stoinis and Abbott are out, and Maxwell and Stark are in. So that's also another good piece of good news for Australia, that Maxwell is in. So yes, that's the news.
South Africa?
What's that?
Because just the one change for South Africa, because Marco Jansen didn't play the last game. So are they not playing Marco Jansen today?
Let me wait on this. Let me tell you right now. This is straight from the toss. I still don't have the full playing 11. Okay, there. Take a look at that. No, Marco Jansen is back. Yeah. So one change for them, which is Tabraiz Shamshi. He's come in place of Lungi Ngidi. Okay. Bat first kind of a thing. But despite having said that, Jamie, to think that, this is South Africa and Australia, South Africa in a knockout game, in a semi-final against Australia, and despite what anyone says, despite what South Africa have done throughout this tournament and the way they have won a couple of chases, that C letter, that tag is always hanging around over their heads. So in that sense, how do you think they'll be approaching this game?
Look, I'm also trying to process very, very quickly why Marco Jansen wouldn't play this game. I don't know if you heard. I mean, the last time South Africa played here, Chetan informed us about what the coach had said. And apparently yesterday in the press conference, Temba Bavuma was asked point blank, are you going to consider playing Tabraiz Shamshi based on the condition? And he said, these things are not in my control. Now, if the captain is not in control of picking 11s, what is actually going wrong with the South African team? So I think that's a very, very bad sign for South Africa coming off the coach's comment last week. I mean, Bavuma's playing, but okay, that's fine. But in what context did he tell that journalist in that press conference, these things are not in my hand? I'm adding that on to the fact that Marco Jansen is not playing and something is not adding up. But that said, a massive toss for them to win. If South Africa are going to beat Australia, that chance increases when they're batting first. I think Australia are going to struggle. if it's a 40 over innings or 35 innings, to face Maharaj and Tabraiz Shamsi on this track is going to be very, very tough. But we saw how
Marco
poorly
Jansen
Tabraiz
is
Shamsi
back at
bowled
number
against
7.
India.
No, so he's
Okay.
Marco Jansen is back.
Yeah, because that made no sense that they wouldn't play him. Okay, so
And
that's
they've
good for
gone in
them.
with 2 spinners,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, because that made no sense that Marco Jansen would not
No,
play.
no,
And I was
he's there.
wondering if that had anything to do. Okay, but again, Australia are going to find it very, very tough because if Shamsi and Maharaj are on the dime, Meha, it's going to be very difficult to score off them in these conditions. Up, down, whatever Chetan said, that's absolutely right. It's going to be tough. But for that, Shamsi cannot. Shamsi was horrible against India. His first over, 3 balls went down the pads. It allowed Virat Kohli and Shreyas Iyer to set themselves up. If Shamsi is far better than that day, and Keshav Maharaj keeps doing what he does, it's going to be very tough for Australia to chase him.
Okay, another interesting bit from the toss is that Temba Bavuma says he's not 100% fit and he's still playing. I cannot for the life of me understand how is it that you're not 100% fit and why do you have to play? The team has just done absolutely fine without
There's a reason
Temba.
I don't take them seriously, no, Meha?
This is ridiculous. I just
There was
read
this
this. This
question
is...
on
He
a
says
very,
he's
very
not
popular,
100% fit, but he's saying we'll have to be good enough. Why do you have to play? You've been horrible throughout the tournament. And I'm sure, you know, all this talk of leadership amounts to nothing if you're not scoring runs. This team has won without him. Yes, Chetan, I know you have strong opinion on this.
A very leading, probably the world's most leading cricket website, and you know their social media handle asked, you know, if Temba Bavuma doesn't play today, how big a miss is this going to be for South Africa? And that's why I don't take that publication seriously anymore, because is Temba Bavuma going to be a miss? Huge miss? Have you not been seeing the tournament?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I mean, South Africa's selection has always been a bit of a quagmire, really, and especially when it comes to semi-finals. It brings me to 2015 and A.B. de Villiers. Oh my God, you know, one of your idols, a batsman you love watching, a cricketer you love watching, and he was crying in the post-match conference with what had transpired in that dressing room prior to the semi-final, and how he was forced to pick a player he did not want to pick for reasons which have nothing to do with cricket. So when when Temba Bavuma says that this is not in my control, then he's also referring to that you know the selection for South Africa is not always based on cricketing matters, and you never know, this might have been the same reason, which is why he is playing today despite not being 100% fit. I also go back to what Heinrich Klaassen had to say at Wankhede after that 100 he scored, or Reza Hendricks had to say that, you know, because the journalists from South Africa did ask this question, you know, that despite scoring these runs, Reza Hendricks might not play again in the tournament. And they were like, you know what, this is something that should not be acceptable. So, look, this team selection has always been up for question. Temba Bavuma, for me, does not warrant a place in that 11, let alone be captain of that South Africa side. So, you know, he may score 100 today on one leg for all I care, but from what I do understand, he does not deserve to be in that playing 11 on current form, does not deserve to be captain of that South African team. They can do just fine without his captaincy as well, and we have proof of that from this tournament alone with Aiden Markram leading. So I would not say they are on the back foot. Talking about cricketing matters, Tabraiz Shamsi is an interesting choice. Why I think it's a good choice against Australia is because, you know, there are not many spinners who come to India and do well against India. So I'm not going to judge him from that. But he has a good record against Australia. He's a good record against other sides. He's been a very, very decent spinner against other sides. So I'll be interesting. What I do find interesting is also Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne both in that Australian lineup. Because if that top order goes early and they are all attacking batsmen, then with Maharaj and Shamsi against Smith and Labuschagne, that becomes the challenge of the game. That becomes the matchup of the game. So that'll be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think it'll be. I think the reason why Marnus Labuschagne has been brought back in is because of those conditions and what the South African spinners will do against them. But time for me to quickly ask you guys for your predictions. We're going to be back at 6. So what are you expecting from South Africa? What's the kind of total that they can get to? Jamie?
Again, I mean, how many overs are we looking at? I would like to say, let's say they get 40 overs. I don't know. I don't think 50 is going to be possible. A couple drops fell on my head while I was moving the frame. But again, it still hasn't opened up yet. Look, it's a massive advantage when they bat first. We've seen that. I think 40 overs, if they can get to 240, 250, that should be a push because they're going to have to budget for 30, 40 runs, 50 runs more because it's Australia. Yes, chasing here is very, very tough. South Africa are bowled out for 83 by India, but they're going to have to punch whatever they have in mind. It's going to be more than that. So let's say it's a 40 over innings. I would say they're going to need 240.
Okay, Chetan?
If it's anything like the pitch we had for the India-South Africa game, chasing is going to be very, very tough. If it's 50 overs, South Africa, if they can get 280, that will be a winning score.
Okay, wrapping this up, guys. 6 o'clock is when we'll be back. But yes, that's it from us. News 9 Live is what you guys need to subscribe to for all the latest. For now, goodbye. Thanks for watching.
They picked my husband. He was tortured there for 2 years. He was enforced